Good evening, everyone. It's truly an honor tonight to be able to introduce our next guest speaker to you, Wagner's graduating class of 2014, whose words and achievements will hopefully inspire you and commemorate this milestone in your lives. Elana Simon faced adversity at the early age of 12 when she was diagnosed with fibrolamellar hepatocellular carcinoma, a rare form of liver cancer that affects women under 35. With a 32% survival rate, Elana was fortunate enough to survive the disease, but it changed the course of her life forever. With a strong family background in science and an inquisitive nature, Elana made a cutting-edge discovery at an age not much older than yours. As part of a high school internship, she had the idea to genetically sequence her type of cancer. She worked with her surgeon at Memorial Sloan Kettering, gene specialists at the New York Genome Center, and her father to find the mutation that is involved with her disease. Not only has Elana spearheaded the study, but at 18, she has already published her work in a major science journal. She has worked with the Fibrolamellar Cancer Foundation to reach out to other patients and continues to work on improving diagnostic tests and drug treatments to target the disease. Elana has participated in the 2014 White House Science Fair, made guest appearances on NBC News, The Today Show, The Dr. Oz Show, and has been the subject of numerous articles both in print and online. In addition to Elana's amazing contribution to science, she's a talented actress, dancer, aerial acrobat, and head of her high school robotics and science team. She will continue her work in computer science in Harvard next fall. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Elana Simon.
Thank you to all the speakers before me who were fantastic. I want to start off by congratulating all of you. You successfully made it through middle school, arguably some of the hardest years of adolescence, so well done. I too recently graduated, but from high school, so I'm essentially a peek into where you guys will be in about 4 years. So I'll try to share some of what I've learned in the hopes that it will give you something to think about as you go forward. Now, I know it sounds cliche, but high school is really what you make of it. You can ask 20 different high school seniors about their experiences, and no two answers will be the same, which is good because no two people are the same. In these next 2 years, you'll have a chance to build on what you've been doing, but you'll also have a chance to completely rebuild yourself if you wish. High school is a time of new options. You'll have more responsibility and more freedom to decide how you want to spend your time. It wasn't too long ago that I graduated middle school, and back then I had no clue what I wanted to be doing with myself. I loved to perform. I was in countless plays, dances, musicals, but I also knew that I found science and math classes pretty interesting. I had no idea what to do with those interests. They really just don't mesh. Bombarded with options at the beginning of freshman year, I decided I'd spend more time taking dancing and singing lessons and doing shows inside and outside of school. My older brother, a senior at the time, was the captain of the science team, and thinking that this would be something I would like, he tried to get me to join. However, none of my friends were willing to join with me, and since I was too scared to join alone, I decided I'd refuse to associate myself with him and his nerdy science team, because clearly I thought I was way too old for that. As the year progressed, I heard about all the cool things the team was doing and realized I made a major mistake. Thankfully, someone dropped off the team, and I jumped at the opportunity to take his spot, and I could not be more glad that I did. I wanted to prove myself on the team, so I worked really hard and ended up winning medals, even though I was only on the novice team. I realized I was actually quite interested in science, and there was nothing embarrassing about doing science for fun. It ended up sparking my interest in all kinds of science, engineering, and math subjects I never would have tried. A lot of people are too scared to try things because of what other people might think. This mindset is much more prevalent in middle school, and I was lucky that I learned my lesson freshman year, but many people don't realize this until their senior year or even later. As some of you might have noticed, I'm a girl. Crazy, I know. Girls are often shunned away from participating in science and engineering, and although many efforts have been made to eliminate this gender divide, it's sad how many computer science and robotics competitions I've been to where I can literally count the number of girls on one hand. And it's not just girls. I have a few guy friends who dance and choreograph with me for our school's dance show, but in general, the gender ratio in the dance department is just as uneven as it is in robotics. So realizing that I had the desire and the opportunity to pursue science outside of the classroom was a pretty big step for me. My dad's a scientist, so working in a lab never seemed too far-fetched for me. But I knew if I told him I was interested, he'd try to convince me to work with him, which I did not want to do because what teenager really wants to spend all their free time with their dad? I was afraid people would judge me and not take me very seriously if I worked with him, so instead I actually got an internship with a teacher at my school working at this lab. And for obvious reasons, I was pretty interested in cancer, so they were studying pancreatic cancer. And I didn't even tell my dad about this at first because I thought I was being really sneaky, going off and being my own scientist and not saying anything. And this lab was a pretty good experience, but the most important thing I gained from it was exposure to genetic sequencing. Through genetic sequencing, you can read out the code for someone's DNA that basically codes for everything in their body. And so with this, you can look at the sequence of their tumors and their normal cells and try to compare the differences and figure out what exactly is causing a cancer. So the problem was, I wanted to do this on fibrolamellar, but this lab had no association with fibrolamellar hepatocellular carcinoma. Not many people knew much about it at the time, but thankfully I did know someone who's actually an expert on this disease, a surgeon. He's always told me that one day I'm going to become a surgeon of my own, or a doctor, a researcher, something. So when I told him I wanted to start this project, he was extremely encouraging. He offered the mentorship of some of his surgical fellows that were working for him, and said that he would get me the tumor tissues that I needed. I just needed the facilities to do the research in, and that's where my dad stepped back into the picture. His lab had no experience with genetic sequencing, but he convinced me to give it a shot. So one day I went to the lab, and he just put me in a room with two of the surgical fellows and left us alone. It was great. They spoke to me like an actual adult, and made me realize there was nothing to worry about in working in this lab. My dad wasn't hovering, and nobody cared that I was his daughter, or that I was just a teenager who was significantly younger than everyone else in the lab. People were willing to help out with anything I had trouble with, and I realized that all my initial fears were useless. One of the most important things I want to convey to you is just to follow what interests you, and don't let fears stop you from that. Don't choose your activities based on what's easy or what's cool, or don't choose based on college and what you think admissions officers want from you. Choose what's you and not what's expected of you. So many people go into high school thinking that's just a stepping stone, a test to get them into college, but that's not the right mindset. I have a lot of friends who would just sign up for activities that they seem would look good on a transcript or make them seem like a really good student, but they ultimately regretted these choices. Another reason I was nervous to work at my dad's lab is because I thought, people and teachers would look down upon it, but no one cares about that. It was just more interesting that I was so dedicated to this cancer and this research, and what matters now is all the great progress that's been made on the disease. High school is really the time to experiment and to try new things. Now is the time to figure out what you like, and then just do it. Even if you have no idea what it is you want to do, or you think something sounds stupid, just follow what intrigues you. We're all so lucky in that we live in New York. So whatever you're interested in, there's probably somewhere in the city where you can pursue it. Most people don't know this, but there's this hidden community of talented, eclectic, amazing circus performers that reside in the city because New York just fosters interesting communities like that. Upon discovering this, I signed up for classes and fell deeply in love with circus. And no, I'm not talking about clowning or juggling, although people do that too, but aerial acrobatics, the kind of gymnastics-y stuff you'd see in Cirque du Soleil. And thanks to the city, I've learned, performed, and discovered my passion or obsession with this art form. It may not be an extracurricular I'd expect of a kid who just wants to fit in, or the way I once thought people were supposed to do, nor is it the best way to pad your resume for college, unless, of course, you plan to attend clown college, which I have many friends who do and love it. But it's something I love, and it's something that makes me unique, and it's made these past 2 years last. I really don't know what I could have done without it. All these things that make you different, make you special. A big fear for people in middle school and life is being different, being weird, not fitting in. When I was in 6th grade, while all my friends were in class together, hanging out and enjoying the springtime, I was stuck alone and in pain in a hospital bed. Something was clearly different. The entire experience was, as one might imagine, painful, scary, unenjoyable. When I finally got out of the hospital and was learning to walk again, literally, I just wanted to forget the whole experience and put it all behind me. I was lucky. I had survived, and I was ready to go on and go back to being who I was. You know, I didn't want to forever be the cancer kid. The only problem was I had this giant scar that swept across my entire torso, which made it pretty hard to forget anything. I bought out the local drugstores all of their scar removal tape, and I would just pile it on daily, just a futile attempt to make the scar fade and make my body resemble that of a normal preteen girl. Whenever people see my scar and ask what it is, as soon as they hear the word cancer, they put on the classic pity face and start treating me differently, which I know is a result of good intentions, but I used to hate it. I just felt weird, so as a coping mechanism, I used to tell people it was a shark bite because it really doesn't look like one. I had this whole intricate story that required more details and nuances every time I told it. It was quite fun, but it just was not true. Over time, I started realizing that the scar and this experience were not going to go away. I went to the summer camp where I met other kids who'd survived cancer, and these kids would actually compare their hospital stories and scars, which I thought was totally taboo at the time. They were proud of what they had gone through. I thought looking different and having weird imperfections were something to be embarrassed about, but there really is no reason to be. Now I always say that my scar is like my own version of Harry Potter's lightning bolt, you know, the sign that I face death and kicks butt. Everyone has their own insecurities, whether they're due to your appearance or whatever weird interests you have. And you're going to have many options in high school to be unique, and you can only take advantage of them if you stop trying to fit into some imaginary mold of how kids are supposed to act. Who cares if you're the only girl in a room with computer programmers, or the only kid in a lab full of adults, or the only one at a beach who's accessorized their bathing suit with a giant scar? Just never let these differences stop you from pursuing the things that interest you. These things that make you different are what help you realize who you're going to become. I eventually learned to embrace all my weird quirks and insecurities through exploring. I had a pretty unique and exciting, awesome high school experience that hopefully has prepared me for the years to come. So, I hope you find some of my comments useful as you go on forth into high school, and again, congratulations and good luck.